the journeying wild woman, you know, wild hair, like I bit myself and I bruised, like just this raw, unmasked, unfiltered, untethered version of me. Like I was sexual and I was strong and I was a little crazy. And it was beautiful and confronting because I saw my mother in me, and I saw all the places that I was rejecting myself, because I was rejecting the parts of me that were her, because I didn't want to show up the same way that she does in the world. So it made me realize that what we resist persists, and I was resisting myself. I was resisting my heritage. I was resisting my DNA. And as confronting as it was to receive that picture, and as heartbreaking as it was, I've always actually had a deep empathy for my mum. Even without having a relationship with her, I invited her to meet Lincoln when he was born. I didn't talk to her, but I allowed her to meet him, because I've always had this sense of she's in enough pain. You know, it sucks enough that she doesn't have a relationship with me and I'm amazing and I'm doing all of these amazing things. I didn't want to take anything else away from her. I also selfishly, if she passed away, which was a high possibility, she could overdose at any time, I didn't want to feel any guilt for withholding that life experience from her, or from myself as well, truly, if I'm being honest. Like, I've always wanted to reconnect with my mum, I just haven't had the ability to, or haven't thought she had the ability to. I also invited her to my wedding, and the same thing, she was at my wedding, but I didn't have a conversation with her. She was just there to probably appease my guilt and fulfill the need of my little girl to have some sort of relationship or some sort of connection to her. I'm trying to loop this back in out of story and back into the lessons that I can impart with you all to do some reflection and hopefully ignite a flame within you, whether it's your mother or your father or your brother or your sister, or relationship with yourself, to really give you, or hopefully share with you, some wisdom to create change within your worlds. So yeah, journeying the archetypes was big, but again, my situation's not the same as everyone's. My mum is a drug addict, and she still is, and we've had this conversation. She knows that I talk about her freely. I also had that conversation when I was there. She's comfortable with me talking about her. Like, truly what she said was, whatever you need. And I will get into that whole story and that whole reveal and how that was received in just a minute. I just want to make sure there hasn't been anything else pivotal in my journey that I can leave with you, so you can reflect and perhaps look at the same modalities. NLP was a huge one. So this was before the embodiment work with Wild Grace, but I speak about this in my tell-all video. Me and my family have a lot of sexual assault trauma in our stories. And some of that involved, I'm being cautious because some of my family members don't like me to talk about it, and whilst I won't wear masks and I won't gag myself, it's taken me 35, nearly 36 years to unmask myself and stand in the world in truth. I'm trying to respect their boundaries as well, but let's just say the way in which me and my brothers were shown how to love was blurry, and there wasn't anything, you know, too deep or heinous there, but the way in the story which I attached to it made me feel like I wasn't deserving of life itself, that I was a monster because I never stopped it. And I was a child, so again, my logical brain knows that I couldn't, but I was the middle child, and in my eyes the strongest at that point in time. But I've definitely worked on softening into giving that karma back to my brothers and my dad and my mum, that has been a part of my journey is this wounded little girl sort of took on the world, sort of decided that I was going to be the hero. So really then from that moment, from a little girl, stepped into this warrior archetype and really walled up my heart and took my sword and my shield into the world and sort of fought off demons. It both served me, but it also cost me, and it's taken me 3 years of deep diving into self to really come back into softening and come back into my heart and allow myself to be open but discerning. So the way NLP helped me was I actually spoke into my deepest fear. And what I ask of the women that work with me is, what are you most ashamed of? Like, what is the... And Elle, you're watching, we've only just started. Surprise, this is coming. What is the one thing that this voice inside your head tells you? That, you know, for me it was, if people truly knew what your childhood was like, if they truly knew how messed up your childhood was, because I wore masks my whole life, I would speak about, you know, that my parents were on drugs and that we had a messed up childhood, but I wouldn't actually speak into any detail. And the reason is because of all this shame and guilt, and you know, what I say in my magic to the world is removing shame and guilt, because truly shame and guilt are the shackles that keep us bound, the shackles that keep us stuck in narratives that are no longer serving us. So when I actually spoke to my NLP practitioner, this was probably actually 4 years ago now, and shared this shame that I had for myself, it started to unravel my healing and unravel the places that I need to give the most love. So again, I talk about, when we're in this work, that we don't add shame or guilt. So I'll ask you to do something, but if you don't do it, I'm not going to shame you or guilt you. Like, truly, this is your journey. And we don't need any more shame and guilt to bind us to this feeling of worthlessness that a lot of us feel. And I didn't feel worthy for most of my life. Like, truly, I can only say that I stepped into worthiness at the end of last year, beginning of this year. I felt it at the end of last year. I believe I embodied it whilst I was in Mexico. So this worthiness piece that we all play with, this worthiness piece of or lack of worth, piece really dictated my life and my narrative. It's why I would self-sabotage. It's why my business failed the first time round. It's why I would get everything that I wanted and then lose it, because I was actually subconsciously taking away these things from myself, because there was a part of me that didn't think I was worth all of the money, the happiness, the love, all of the external things that I was giving myself to fill this internal void.